everybody, how's it going? My name is Zach Clayton. I am the president and founder of Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the pACT channels. We are, even though I did kind of say I wasn't going to do this anymore, we are going to rerun the event or the show from Wednesday night, and that is because there are a couple very, very important things. Also, I need everyone to this is kind of an on the fly thing. We are moving the replay of Footprints Forward back an hour because this is going to extend 2 hours. Here in northern Colorado, we're running into a lot of problems with weather, including large hail, tornadoes, rain, all kinds of stuff that could be damaging to your home. Well, we've got Steve Solis from Independence Roofing going to be joining us in the second hour. But this first hour is so very important for anybody who has teenagers who are in trouble, who may be struggling with emotional problems. So please check out this show. It's a rerun. And then this show is going to last 2 hours. And then we're going to have the replay of Footprints Forward. So I hope you guys really enjoy this. I know it's very important. And there's a lot of great information in here. So here we go. Hey there, how's it going, everyone? It is Wednesday, which means pACT, podcasting for all coming together. We've got a couple things to announce. The co-host is here, at least one of them. The other one's probably going to be popping up here in a minute to chew on her head. That's what they've been doing. She's very moist right at this moment. Get down. Thank you. Thank you. But we do have a couple things to announce. One, Mayday, we have a problem is now, wow, she's excited, is now going under Footprints Forward. And we're using the saying that I created on the 22nd, which is no matter how softly you walk, you still leave footprints, meaning that whoever you are, if you think people are not going to miss you, if you commit suicide, you are wrong. There's going to be people who miss you. There's going to be people who miss you a lot. One other announcement that we've got, tomorrow is the day that we are going to announce the date for the Chili Cook-Off and Toy Drive for 2023 with Key Largo Lounge. Number 6 is here now. Wow, dog. Excited much. But it is the second Wednesday of the month, and that means that I am joined by my very, very, very special co-host. Let me try that again. Co-host, because he's not a co-host, he's a co-host. Mr. Les Simpson. How's it going, Les? My co-host.
How are you?
I don't know. Apparently, I forgot how to speak in between the time I pressed play.
You have some meat on your hands or something. The dog.
Yeah. I'm being attacked by my own dog. I don't know. So, so Les, you've got a very special guest with us today. Why don't you go on ahead and make the introduction, and we'll pull her on up.
Sure. This is Jackie Simmons. She's world famous speaker, author, and she has a nonprofit about teenage suicide. But I was telling her about this veteran group, and she said adults work just as well. And so she really wants to educate us on what causes the problems and what we can do about them, because she is the expert on this. And I'm very excited. She's done TED Talks. For anybody that knows what that is, that's a very special talk that only certain people get to do. She's done them. And now she's going to actually reiterate it on this show, which is quite a privilege for us to watch.
Well, that's great. And so we are thrilled to bring on Mrs. Jackie Simmons. How are you doing, Jackie?
I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I'm very, very happy that you are joining us. Yes, February 22nd, for the last 2 years, I've done a 22-hour podcast that was about veteran suicide, because the numbers were, they are what they are. And one of the things that my studies have brought up were the number that caught me most off guard was the one that I put up in that video, in that by the end of 2020, unfortunately, we had one suicide every 11 seconds in America. So tell us a little bit about your program, and then we are looking for someone, if you would like to learn more about this and see how the program works. We're looking for a volunteer. If we don't have a volunteer, I volunteer.
All right. Before somebody volunteers, permission to interrupt, sir.
Yeah.
Before somebody volunteers, let's let them know what they're volunteering for.
I should probably ask this too before I volunteer, because if you make me cry, well, that'll be funny, and it could only make my ratings better. So.
There's something special that happened on January 21st of 2021. I'm sorry, January 16th of 2021. And that's when I stood on a TEDx stage in a ghost town known as Las Vegas. Yeah. It was the height of COVID. There was no traffic moving on Las Vegas Boulevard. There were no pedestrians. Vegas was dark and it was quiet. And when I walked into the room of my TEDx, the only audience that Vegas would allow was the other speakers. So while I stood on a TEDx stage in Las Vegas, it's not what most people experience. I'd like to take you back there with me for just a few moments, with your permission. We're going to visit my journey that got me to this TEDx stage after we have the talk that saves lives. That's what someone will be volunteering for. But it started with 3,000 a day. 3,000 a day. That's the number of teenagers who attempt to take their own lives every day, just in the USA. By August of 2020, oh, by the way, that number is from August the 3rd, 2019, and we'll come back to that date in a minute. By August of 2020, the Center for Disease Control said that 25%, 1 out of 4 of every young adult in America was struggling with suicidal thinking. Think of the 4 people you know between the ages of 14 and 24. 1 of them is struggling to stay alive. And that's what we've learned. Now, it's summer. And in the summer of 1995, in June, at the start of summer vacation, none of this was on my mind. My 3 daughters were in high school and middle school. They were getting ready for their summer trip to visit their dad and his family 1 state away. 3 daughters, travel means only one thing: shopping. My middle daughter, Stephanie, was in between her sisters, in between schools, and in between clothing sizes. Any woman knows where I'm going with this. Shopping became an adventure. Outfit after outfit, store after store, nothing fit her. And at the end of the day, we came home with nothing except an attitude. Stephanie stormed upstairs and into her bathroom, and I collapsed on the sofa, grateful to be off my feet. Peace and quiet. And then, Mom, I think I need help. My eyes were drawn to Stephanie's left arm. Blood was dripping off her fingers onto the floor. The emotional part of my brain started screaming in terror at the sight of my bleeding, obviously suicidal child. The rational part of my brain started flipping through files in my head, trying to remember the date of her last tetanus shot. Have you ever been panicky and calm at the same time? I wrapped her arm, held her tight, and assessed the wounds. They were not life-threatening. We made plans to see, we bandaged it up, made plans to visit the local teen mental health facility the next day, made the appointments. Eventually, all the tears stopped. All the mutual I'm sorries were shared, and she slept. I couldn't risk being away from her, so we slept in the living room on the futon. And between us, her handwritten note, her promise not to harm herself while I slept. Yeah, right. Like I was going to close my eyes that night. All night, I stared into the darkness in the direction of the ceiling, listened to her breathe, and wondered, what just happened? How the hell did this happen? Who's to blame? It had to be somebody's fault. What followed? Years, counseling, therapy, medications, interventions, hospitalizations, and 13 more attempts. I sold myself on the idea that as long as Stephanie was getting professional help, we didn't need to talk about it. The truth was, I didn't want to talk about it. Would you? Would you want to know what could make your child so unhappy that they thought dying was better than living? I didn't want to know, so I didn't ask. And then, August 3rd, 2019, Stephanie is giving a 7-minute talk, a message that matters. The hotel, the conference center on the outside of Sarasota, Florida. It was already hot that morning. I walked into the conference room and greeted the 12 speakers that I'd trained. Oh my God. Stephanie looked amazing with her hair pulled back and a flowery top and a bright skirt. She was in that nervous, kind of excited state you get into right before you give a talk. She was the first one up. The audience took their seats and the lights dimmed. Everyone help me welcome Stephanie Ashton. Oh my God, I was so proud of her. She walked up confidently and shook my hand and started with a startling statistic, 3,000 a day. That's the number of teens who attempt to take their own lives every day. In the back of the room, I was stunned. Twice. First, because I had no idea the number was that large. And second, because I had no idea suicide was her topic. Her next sentence. When I was 14, after a bad day of shopping, I stood in my bathroom. The pain of not fitting into any clothes was just more proof that I didn't fit in anywhere. And that pain was more than I could bear. So I took a razor and cut into my left arm, trying to end the pain and my life. In the back of the room, I felt the blood drain from my face. I felt myself go pale. I wasn't prepared for this to be happening. And Stephanie continued. She said, outside of professional help, it's not my only attempt. There were others. And outside of professional help, we've never really talked about it. I've never really talked about it, especially not with Mom. Mom and I kind of talked around it. It was too personal, too painful. Mom and I had other talks. We had the talk about sex. We had the talk about drugs. We had the talk about alcohol. Then I went to college on a dry campus. Oh, that means the kegs are hidden in the showers of the girls' dorm. We had the talk about alcohol more than once, but we never talked about suicide. And the truth is, I still struggle with suicidal thoughts. In the back of the room, I went from pale to bone cold as I faced the reality of the struggles that my daughter had to go through alone because I didn't have the courage to talk about suicide. Only my 30 years of stress management training kept me from crawling into a corner and just crying my eyes out. Have you ever been hijacked by a bad memory? Stephanie wound up her talk. Along my suicide avoidant journey, I've learned a ton of coping skills. Now, I want to get these skills to teenagers before they need them. Yes, before they need them. Oh my God, there wasn't a dry eye in the house, including mine. Stephanie got a standing ovation. People rushed up and they hugged her and they thanked her for being so brave, so willing, so vulnerable. And in the back of the room, I was frozen, rooted in place, torn between pride for her bravery and guilt and shame for my cowardice. After that day, Stephanie and I decided to work together. Who knew that was possible? We founded the Teen Suicide Prevention Society. But before that could happen, something else happened that day when I was standing in the back of the room. It hit me. 3,000 a day, the number of teens who attempt to take their own lives every day, means that over 6,000 parents start to live the guilt nightmare that I lived. That means that over 20,000 grandparents, aunts, uncles, brothers, and sisters start to live the guilt nightmare that I'd lived every day. This means every day that hundreds of thousands of classmates, teachers, neighbors, boyfriends, and girlfriends all start to live the guilt nightmare that I'd lived, probably all just as blindsided by it as I had been. And then I wondered, what if Stephanie was right? What if the key to ending teen suicide was as simple as having the talk before they need it? Before they need it. Oh my God, something so simple and obvious that experts have tripped over it. Simple and obvious, like putting wheels on luggage, kind of obvious, or putting ketchup in bottles that you can squeeze. Simple and obvious. When we started working together, we wrote a book. 20 authors came together sharing their inspiring stories. The goal was to get the book in the hands of teens. So I took a case of books to the local high school. We had a group. I shared our vision that we would give books out to teens for free. And they could use the stories to help break the silence with their friends. And after we went around and I shared it all, then I asked the kids in the room, do you have a story? Do you have a friend who's tried or died? And they went around the room, one after the other. One young lady lost her first friend to suicide in elementary school, and her second friend just the year before. She was only a sophomore. When I was done at the high school, I went out into my car and sat there and cried, because it was not just some of the kids or most of the kids, it was all of them. 100% of the kids in the room had a story, and I'll bet their parents were just as clueless as I had been. So we decided to form a nonprofit, and because the world loves a good joke, the Teen Suicide Prevention Society was founded officially as a nonprofit on April 1st, 2020, the day they closed all the schools in Florida for COVID. So we couldn't get into the schools. We couldn't reach out. So what we did was take and pivot. And we started teaching people how to have the talk that saves lives. The talk that saves lives. It's a simple, guided, neuroscience-based script. It is very, very easy. And we started teaching it to parents and teachers and teens. And what we found was that it works. Tammy had the talk with her troubled son. They cried together. He agreed to get professional help. Raphael shared his stories with us. He has reported back to us that the talk has saved 16 lives. 16 teenage girls have decided to stay. He works with troubled teens. Now it's going to be your turn. The talk is super simple. It's available for free on our website. You can get the guide for the talk that saves lives. Along with it, you can get the Why Not workbook. Don't wait. We want you to have the talk, but we don't want you to go into it blind. So before you go to get the guide, let's let you be part of the talk. So here's the invitation. Hey, I've decided to be part of the mission to end veteran suicide. They gave me a guide. I need to practice. Would you be willing to help me practice my guide? And if you are, follow the instructions from Zach. We'll bring you up and you will get to be the first contestant on the talk that saves lives. And otherwise, I'm volunteering Zach, assuming you're still willing.
Oh, I'm still willing. First off, it's terribly important story. And that's what I've got to say. One of the things that I think is so important about your story is it's something that we're parroting quite a bit. Is that, look, there are things out here that, if you're not, in which I can understand, as a mom, you're thinking that you put your child's life into the hands of a professional, so everything should be okay now. Everything should be okay. This is the way, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is where I back out. I let them do what they do, and they take care of this. That absolutely is not the way it should be, though. You can't let it be that way.
Here's what happened. And there are probably other people who've heard this. Have you ever heard somebody say, but if I talk about suicide, won't I be putting the idea into their head? No. That's a myth. It's a myth. I loved what you all have on your pictures where you say silence is deadly, because we absolutely know that it's true. The Center for Disease Control says that the refusal to talk about suicide is in and of itself a risk factor for suicide.
Yeah.
So silence isn't golden. Silence is deadly on this topic. So what we've done is create the tools that make it safe. Because here's what we've learned. The number one reason that people do not want to talk about suicide, according to my daughter, she's an expert, she didn't want to be a burden on the family. The number two reason we've discovered that people do not want to talk about suicide is they do not want to be made to go see someone. Why? Because they often have a traumatic background. And what we have known to be true is that starting with oh my God, for Stephanie, every time she started with a new doctor or a new therapist, she had to tell her history again. And she went backwards, not forwards. It was re-traumatizing to the extreme. Oh, so by the way, at my company and at the nonprofit, our prime directive, no one gets re-traumatized on our watch. That's why it's a scripted talk. Someone using the guide has to commit that they will read it. That's why the invitation is worded the way that it is. They gave me a guide. I need to practice. The person you're practicing with knows you are going to be reading the guide. This prevents direct eye contact. Absolutely important. You're reading the guide. You're creating a safe space. They know that you don't think they're at risk of suicide. They're only having this conversation with you to help you. Guess what you've just done? The minute you ask someone to help you, you have lit up the pleasure center of their brain. Their interior, their internal 3-year-old is going, oh, goody, goody, I get to help, I get to help. Teenagers still want to help. They just don't jump up and down quite so much. So they get to help. You've lit up that part of the brain. You're already building out an emotional buffer for them on this topic. This is critical. So do we have a volunteer, Zach, or is it going to be you?
Looks like it's going to be me, but I've got one question for you real quick, Jackie. One of the other things that we've been really putting an emphasis on is that, you know what, if you are not the one who can talk, because there are people who just physically and mentally cannot handle the talk themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie, how important is it to go and find somebody who is strong enough to do it?
Okay, you're talking about something that I want to highlight, a significant difference. You're talking about a conversation designed to intervene in suicidal thinking. That's in the hands of an intervention specialist. And there are trainings for that. That's not us. We are a pure prevention program provider. We are way upstream. That's why the invitation's worded that way. And here's why. COVID started shutting everything down. Most of the networking went online. And even when the networking started being in person again, the same thing held true. As soon as someone knew that I was connected with the Teen Suicide Prevention Society, the private chats would start. If not to me, then to the host. What did I learn in my very unscientific experience? There's one in every room, at least. In every room, there is at least one person grieving the loss of a loved one to suicide. And in every room I walk into, there is at least one person struggling to stay alive. And the truth is, you can't tell by looking. You can't tell by looking. So here's the other thing the Center for Disease Control says. The #1 risk group in the world for suicide is the person who's had a previous attempt. The second highest risk group for suicide in the world is you. If you know someone who's tried or died. You. How do I know it's you? Because I'll bet you know a celebrity chef, a gifted singer, a talented comedian. And thanks to media, we are all in a higher risk group than we used to be. Oh, and here's my rant on the topic. If you're a celebrity, you don't have the right to take your own life. Because the minute you do, everyone who has followed you is now at a higher risk for taking their own life because of something in the brain called a mirror neuron. I believe that if you're a celebrity, you have to step up and get help, or step back and get out of the limelight.
There's that young little girl who had to, and I wish that I would have known that this was coming up, because I'd love to give her the credit, but I know that she has dealt with a lot of mental issues, and as a performer, she was a child performer, and she fully comes out and admits, look, I had a problem. I had to step away. I had to. And I love that statement that you just said. The other thing that I love is, the #1 person we have to worry about is somebody who's tried. And it's because it's there. It's there. All right. And, look, if you leave a conversation that is not completed, you may never get to finish that conversation. And so, I love what you're doing here. just to kind of give you a little bit of a background on me. As I mentioned right before this, I do the 22-hour podcast about veteran suicide on the 22nd of February every year. 3 weeks prior to that, I had someone very, very, very special to me who ended her life. And so I did that 22-hour podcast with the toughest memory. And it was one of the toughest things I have ever done, was sitting there and knowing that I'm sitting here trying to tell these people not to end their life, these heroes not to end their lives, yet I couldn't reach out to this person, or I didn't reach out to this person in time. And so I think that, this that we're about ready to go through, I think it's very, very poignant. I think it might be perfect timing. I think that we were going to say that this could be something that we were looking for a volunteer, but now I volunteer. I want to see this happen.
Thank you, Zach, for volunteering. It's only 4 questions. Are you ready?
I am very ready.
Question 1. Zach, have you heard about the rise in veteran suicide?
Yes.
Oh, I forgot to give you the rules. The rules are, for the first 3 questions, you can only answer yes or no. And then on the 4th question, you can tell me as much as you want. Sound good?
Boy, it's a good thing you said that, because you can ask less. I don't shut up. So yes.
All right, good. We'll start over so everyone can get this. Question 1. Zach, have you heard about the rise in veteran suicides?
Yes.
Thank you. Question 2. Do you have a story? Do you have a friend who's tried or died?
Yes.
Thank you. Zach, question 3. Have you ever thought of leaving that way?
No.
Thank you. Question 4. Hey, Zach, why stay? What are your reasons for staying?
You mentioned it earlier. My sons, my family, my new wife, our kids that I don't even know yet, and my new grandkids that I haven't had a chance to be around, and I offer something to people.
Why else?
And look, there's no, what would it prove other than?
Hey, Zach, I'm going to ask it another way. Let's make it a little easier. You ready?
Okay, good. Because
Yeah. Here we go. You ready? Here we go. Another way to look at this. Zach, what's so good about your life that you want more of it?
For me, that answer is very simple. Change. Life changes. I went from a motorcycle accident where I almost died to where I am now, trying to help other people live. And now I got both of my co-hosts here. Apparently my dogs wanted to be not left out. Yes,
Dogs
I don't want to die because of you too, even though your breath stinks.
Dogs are very in tune to the emotions. What everyone saw, and you might have felt, is that when you started talking about your reasons for staying, your whole demeanor changed. Your energy changed. Your voice tone changed. And so here's what happened in the brain. We very strategically, with very neutral language, agitated the broad topic of veteran suicide. Then we brought it closer to home, and then we brought it inside. And so what that does is fire up all the electricity in the neural network that still holds grief and angst on the topic. And then with question 4, we flipped the switch. We redirected, I'll use better language. We've redirected all of that energy into a new neural pathway labeled reasons for staying. And then the more reasons that you came up with, the more your brain searched for what's so good in your life that you want more of it. You were building out an entire neural network. So now when you have a naturally occurring thought of leaving, because Freud said suicidal thoughts are normal, they're part of our worst case scenario problem solving mechanism of the brain. So there's no problem when they don't stay around. So what happens now is you have a thought of leaving, it's going to hit this new filter in your reticular activating system in the RAS, and it's not going to hang around. It's like coating you with emotional Teflon. So congratulations. You now have a buffer between yourself and an edge that I don't need to know whether or not you were near, and you may not even know you were near.
Jackie, let me ask you a question, and this is something that I strongly believe in, and I kind of see a correlation here of these two. I always tell people, 17 years ago, I quit smoking, and I was smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, and I quit on that day. I still had 3 cigarettes in my pack. I still had 3 unopened packs, but I set the time, I set the date, and I said, I am done on this day, and I have not smoked another cigarette since. I tell people I was able to do this because I wanted to quit. I wanted it more than I wanted to smoke. Is that are we kind of talking the same thing here? Because it wasn't, I think I want to quit. This was, no, I'm quitting. I'm done. It's
what we're doing is building out the same motivation. So Zach, to peel this back, why? Why not stay a smoker? What was going on in your head? Why not continue to smoke?
Oh, that again, I'm going to answer the same question I did with the why wouldn't I leave? My sons. My sons came up to me and asked me to quit, and that was the first thing. I couldn't get through eating a meal without smoking a cigarette. I could not get a night's sleep without waking up to smoke.
Why not stay a smoker? Because you wanted to sleep through the night. Yeah. Because you wanted to enjoy a whole meal. Because you wanted to be around for your kids, and your kids had identified that you might not make it if you didn't quit. These are your reasons. And so this is the premise behind the Why Not Workbook. And you're right. It's exactly the same thing. When you start adding up, we call this building up evidence. When you start adding up evidence, building up evidence that life is worth living, that there are things you still want, that there are things you enjoy. But you can't just go up to somebody and ask them what they want. It really requires the pathway to be effective. Because remember, what we're doing is intentionally building up the electricity and angst on this topic using specific, neutral language that you read. And then we're stealing it and redirecting it into the pathway that builds the buffer between someone and an edge that they may not even know they're near. Now, I want to give the disclaimer for any of you who have loved ones that you're worried about. If someone answers yes to question 3, yes, they've had thoughts of leaving. Again, it's really neutral language. They've had thoughts of leaving, and they answer no to question 4. They have no reasons for staying. We say stay with them and dial 911. Oh, they might hate you for it, and you might save their life. But Zach, you've been around this topic a long time, especially with veterans, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we've been around it for a day or two.
All right. So here's my question for you. Now that you've experienced this talk, and you know that we work with people of all ages, all walks of life. I work with vets all the time. Zach, what percentage of people do you think have had that experience that we've had the talk and they've said yes to question 3, they've had thoughts of leaving, and no to question 4, they had no reasons for staying? Just a percentage. What do you think?
That's a tough question to answer.
Yeah, just a guess.
Because truthfully, thankfully, everybody that we've talked to so far has recovered and or is on the way to recovery.
Right. So remember, you're talking about an at-risk and known at-risk population. I'm talking about the population in general.
So yeah, I mean, I would definitely say over half. You know, I mean, we know Look, and we say it all the time. It was at one point in time where we would say that every single one of us knows somebody who's had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
We're this way about suicide now. Every
Right.
single one of us knows someone.
Right. So that's question 2. Do you have a story? Do you have a friend who's tried or died? The question is, when someone says yes, they've had thoughts of leaving, to question 3. And when I ask question 4, when someone asks question 4, what are your reasons for staying? Why stay? They said nothing. 0 reasons for staying. That's the red flag. You call 911. You don't wait. You stay with them. How many do you think there have been out of the thousands of talks? Just a percentage.
I'm going to say with your program, with the way that it's thoughtfully put together, I'm going to say that the number is probably pretty low, probably about 10-15%.
That's pretty around the ballpark of what people guess. The truth, 0. 0. 0. And the reason is because people who are masking depression and suicidal thinking will lie.
Yeah.
They will lie. And you know what's so great about it when they lie? Their other than conscious mind is hearing them give answers to the questions, reasons for staying. And even though they're making them up, their brain is building out the same file folder in their head labeled reasons for staying. It builds out the same buffer, even if they lie. Oh, and disclaimer, sorry guys, I kind of forgot to mention this, but every single person who had listened to this, who would listen to Zach answering the questions in this talk that saves lives, every single one of you, because of a little thing called mirror neurons, you just walked yourself further away from an edge that you might not have even known you were near. As Zach came up with his reasons for staying, your brain was playing along.
Exactly. And that is one of the reasons, Jackie, why we thought, myself and the group of people I work with, less included here, this is one of the reasons why we've thought that this is important enough to talk about. Mm-hmm. Every single one of us is going to heal different. Mm-hmm. We need to make sure that everything is out there, because those who aren't comfortable in a kumbaya setting, mm-hmm. guess what? If that's all you offer them, they're going to walk away from it and nothing's going to change.
Here's what we
This gives us another option. So
yeah, well, I'm going to give you another option. Have you ever heard of the positivity professor? It's a guy named Sean Aker. He's from Harvard University.
I actually have not.
He's not only a graduate of Harvard, he also started their positive psychology department. He was there when that whole thing started. And he delivers what is arguably the funniest TEDx talk of all time. So I'll make sure that you have his name spelled correctly. It's just SHAWNACHOR. And his topic is called The Happiness Advantage. When I was reading through his books, he's written several. He wrote the books before he did the TEDx talk, kind of backwards from the way most people do it. It was his 3rd book where he said, we got it wrong. In the positive psychology world, we were studying what helps people in college and high pressure environments like Harvard, what helps them succeed. And what we were looking for was, how supported are you by your community? So we were asking questions about, did their friends call them? Did they belong to a club? These kinds of questions, and we could find 0 correlation. Year after year, 0 correlation between how well you're supported by your environment and your community and whether or not you thrive and succeed in life. And then we realized we were asking the wrong question. We started asking, what do you do to support your community? How many people do you reach out to in your community each week? And we started asking the opposite question. And what we discovered was an 86% correlation between your involvement actively supporting other people and your ability to thrive in high pressure environments, intense environments, and to succeed in life. The reason we wrote the talk the way we wrote the talk is because when you get the guide and you are asking these questions of someone else, the reality is you are suicide proofing two people. You are building out a buffer for both of you, backing away from the edge. And what we believe is that if you can build out a big enough buffer to back somebody away from the edge, you will never have to talk them off a ledge. And that's the premise behind what we do. We have tools for intervention. We have the Why Not workbook. You get that for free at the website too. That's that game I played with you about smoking, where you get the brain to argue for what you want by asking it, why not keep doing what you don't want? So that's all scripted out for people that they can fill it out like a journal. They can work with that. It's really easy. But we've got a bigger tool now, Zach. Last year, a group of very talented musicians and lyricists wrote us a song. You can find it on the Before You Decide. You want to share that?
Yeah, let me go on ahead and if I have your permission, I would love to share this and share the video with it.
Awesome. That would be great.
All right. Well, here, let me go on ahead and get this set up here real quick. I just saw it, so we will go on ahead and play this video so everybody can check it out. So do you want to introduce who this is?
The young man's name is Logan Klaus. He was one of the group of lyricists who came together to write the song. It's his image on the cover. It's him with his guitar and the firelight in his face, so you can't really see his features. Behind him is a black lake because it's dark outside of the fire. That night was the last night he saw his friend alive, and that's why they chose that picture for the cover of this song. And you'll see what comes through him when he plays this.
Okay, so this is Logan Klaus, Before You Decide, and you can find this video on your website, correct, Jackie?
Correct. It's the button that says the song.
Okay, so here we go. Let's go on ahead and share this with everyone.
Listen, I don't wanna wait. I don't want to find out that I asked too late. Don't have to change. There's no need to worry about what you say. We can stay till it's alright. I'll be here as many nights it takes to find your reason why. Before you decide to throw it away, just know that the storm clouds won't always remain. Before you decide you can't find the way, just wait for the sun that comes after the rain. Before you decide, before you decide. Listen, I won't say I know, but I promise I'll go. Oh, the distance I understand. Our position, you don't have to feel so distant. We can stay till it's alright. I'll be here as many nights it takes to find your reason why. Before you decide to throw it away, just know that the storm clouds won't always remain. Before you decide you can't find the way, just wait for the sun that comes after the rain. Before you decide, I don't wanna wait. I don't wanna find out that I asked too late.
That was absolutely amazing. That really was. Very, very impressed by that. A couple things that well, I'd like to listen more, but wait till I'm done. Okay. He was playing on my other screen, so a couple things that really caught my eye, and that was it looked like it was every town in America that he was at, and I think that that makes a huge impact because every kid in the world can see exactly where he was in their town, no matter what their town looks like.
Yeah.
To that point, it was also an affluent town, a side of town in one area because you looked over and it was the bigger single family homes. And so I think that that was making a really, really good point. And then, just I'll make the commitment. And that was something. The other thing that really caught me was the words, I'll never say I know, because that's something that we always try to tell people.
Oh, I know how you feel. Oh, hell no, you don't.
Yeah, yeah. You may, and we try to let people know that look, your situation is different because it's you, and that's what makes your situation unique. Is it's you in this situation, and so what got me there is not what got you here. And so that's why we really do. We always try to tell people, don't ever say, I know.
Instead, what do you give people to say instead of I know?
Yeah, now you ask them why. What's number 4?
Okay. Yeah, number 4 is why stay, but you can't start with why stay.
Right. Yeah.
So it doesn't work as well. The first thing, if you think someone is struggling, the first thing is say, I'm here. I got you. I'm not going to leave. And then talk to them about what's true. Tell me about your worst day. Tell me about your best day. Do you see the grasshopper? Get them grounded. First, you've got to just address the fact that they have emotion, but don't ask them to explain what they're feeling. Not a good idea. Better to ask them, do you see the grasshopper? Do you, whatever it is that will get them back in touch with their physicality, with their environment. We call it a cup. Get them to say something. Ask them about something that's concrete, universal, and picturable. That's a cup. Because if they're holding on to something that's real, you've got a better shot.
Jackie, one of the other things, and then Les, I'm hoping that you want to jump in here and ask a couple questions. I know I've kind of taken over your guest, and I've kidnapped your show here, my friend. But this is just fascinating for me. But Jackie, one of the Brian Gibson, who has started Project Die Hard, a wonderful, wonderful program. Brian pulled the gun out of his mouth when he heard the words of God. And where the words of God are not what it takes for everyone, that is what saved him. what he says, and excuse my language here, but he says, if you are going to tell people I'm here to listen, get ready, because you can hear some shit. You're going to hear some stuff that you're not ready for, but you have to be ready for.
All right. This is where I can help. And this is where Brian and I might want to connect. We have the Advocates for Living program. This is the program that builds emotional resilience in you so that you have the ability to listen without judgment. When you have the ability to listen without judgment, when you can listen without making any meaning from their words, when you can listen without judgment, they will feel free to speak without fear. And get them with a professional intervention specialist as soon as you can. That is professional training required to be an intervention specialist. At the Teen Suicide Prevention Society, we can prepare you for whatever could come up in the Talk That Saves Lives, in the Why Not Workbook. We've got the training for you. We absolutely want you to be an advocate for living for everyone. And we do not want you to step in where an intervention specialist is needed. Now, I take a lot of flack. I ran the Suicide Prevention Show. I had people call me out for calling it a show. I had people say, your message hit me like a slap in the face. How dare you put suicide prevention and fun in the same sentence? Suicide prevention is a fight, a daily struggle to stay alive. And I said, after some soul searching, who am I? Who do we want to be? And I said, you need intervention. You're already struggling with suicidal thinking. It's too late to prevent you from struggling with suicidal thinking, which is what we do. We prevent the problem from occurring. We are way upstream. And if our message that upstream is fun, that suicide prevention, pure prevention is fun, drives you away from us and into the waiting arms of an intervention specialist, our message is doing its job.
That's fantastic. You're on mute, my friend, or your microphone's off. Or
sorry about that. I said, I think this is great. I've learned a lot. Understand more how the mind works and
wow.
So I think she definitely should be on many stages and get the word out there in many different areas, because this has been phenomenal. And I think the teens and the veterans need to know about it.
Can you imagine what would happen in the world if we got teens to have this talk with vets and we got vets to have this talk with teens? We might solve two problems at the same time.
That's very true.
They all, in my opinion, the guide is really good. Trust me, I've worked on it for years. And I believe they need the Advocates for Living program so that they learn how to have the talk that ends self-sabotage, and the talk that ends bullying, and the talk that ends negative thinking. Those are the other three talks in the training that go along with the talk that saves lives. So those are the four components to be an advocate for living. You are prepared to address bullying, to address self-sabotage, to address generalized negative thinking, and to save lives. Because you don't have to worry. This is what I loved about the lyrics in that song. You don't have to worry about what you're going to say. We've got you covered. We got the guides. Let us help you. Help them.
I again, thank you. This was as Les said, this was eye-opening, and as much work as you guys put into it to make it as simplistic as what you've done. Let me ask you one last question. Unfortunately, we're coming up to the top of the hour. But let me ask you this question. What do parents kind of look at you at first and go, what? No way. There's no way 4 questions are going to save my kid's life.
What they tell me is not my kid. My kid's not in trouble.
Yeah.
And every parent who's looking for signs, if you are waiting for signs, you are looking for trouble, because the reticular activating system is set to a default setting that my child's okay, which means that even if there are signs, your reticular activating system will not let you see them. And it is not your fault. It is not your fault. It is the way the brain really works. And once you understand that, maybe you'll understand this. I believe we are in the suicide war with 2 A's. We're all at risk. Once you accept that your child is at risk simply because your child is a child in this day and age, they know suicide. You want to get scared? Ask your kid what they call suicide in his school. Around where I live and on the internet, teenagers are talking about suicide as self-deleting, like it is no bigger deal than hitting the delete key on a keyboard. Our kids know suicide. You need to know the talk.
They know suicide. They also don't know fear anymore, and they're not afraid of it anymore. They don't see, they're not thinking.
They
not
lost
thinking about it.
optimism. They can't think about it. Their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed.
Mhm.
And we can go off on 2 tangents here. The first one is they have a thought of leaving. They can't talk about it. Why? Because all the suicide prevention programs out there say, it's safe. Tell us, we're going to love you. And then they see their friends being carted out of the counselor's office in handcuffs, escorted by policemen, and put in the back of a police car and taken into a 72-hour psychiatric hold. That does not feel loving and safe to them. So they are not going to break the silence. That's why it's up to us. It's up to us. And by the way, it's no different with adults. In Florida, we call it the Baker Act. In New York City, the director of the Suicide Institute had a new doctor, and the nurse said, great, I've got your intake forms. Oh, wait, do you really want to answer this question this way? The guy says, I'm not going to lie. He's the director of the Suicide Institute. The next thing he knew, he was in a wheelchair with an armed security guard on either side of him, being wheeled into the psychiatric intake ward. The rules are there, and they were designed. That seemed like a good idea at the time. And in reality, sometimes it's not. And so once you understand what we're up against, we can say all of the words that we want. If we don't do something different, we're going to lose a generation. We've already now losing 27 veterans a day. The new numbers just came out. It's not getting any better out there, guys. They haven't released the numbers about teenage attempts. It's not getting any better.
No.
The only thing we can do is change what we do. And what we want is for everyone to just say, I might be at risk too, because I know a celebrity chef. I know a talented comedian who took their own life. Maybe I'm at risk too. Let me read the guide. Read it yourself. Read it out loud. Let your reticular activating system get reprogrammed yourself, and you will stop being so afraid. Learn about these simple ways to help break patterns. Because when that kid gets the thought and they're scared to talk about it, what do you do when you're scared about thinking about something? You try not to think about it, right?
Yep.
You ever tried not to think about an elephant? I dare you. Try not to think about an elephant. How many of you have prancing pachyderms in your brain now? What happens when you try not to think about it is you're stuck thinking about trying not to think about it, which is doubling down on it. This creates a negative echo chamber in the brain. Your subconscious mind is elegantly designed to bring about what you think about. This is the law of attraction in action. Now you've got the brain trying to make plans and look for opportunities to bring about what you're thinking about, which is suicide. And all it takes in a teen is for subconscious plan to cross opportunity. And that's why we have jump nets on bridges, because teens are waking up in emergency rooms going, I don't know what happened. And it's true. When you ask a teen, with all blessings to all suicide intervention programs, they are the reason my daughter is still alive, and this is where they're broken and backwards. They say, do you have a plan? The teen, in all honesty, is going to say no, because it's not a conscious plan. This is how your brain really works, guys. And it's working against the teenagers because they don't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. They don't have a pause button. They don't have the value of perception. It's not there yet.
Jackie, I'm just going to say all the love in the world to you for what you've done. All the love in the world to your daughter for what you guys have done together. Please keep up all the great work, and feel free to come on and join us at any time, because we want to keep up with what you're doing. I'm going to be reaching out to you in the next couple of days to find out if Community Pay It Forward can lend any assistance to you guys, because we would love to be part. We're going to be talking to one of my long-term great friends and partners here in just a minute, and I think that he was watching a little bit of the show before he came on, and I know that this is something that we've been talking about for a while, just because this is something that, again, it is affecting society now. Mm-hmm. It's not affecting a subsect of a society. This is affecting society in a whole. So, but Jackie, once again, it is teensuicideprevention.com.
Teen Suicide Prevention Society. Think
Society.com.
Teaspoons. TSPS. We call it teaspoons.
Well, like I said, and all you have to do is go on there and get the guide here, and the guide is absolutely free, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There you go. So, and free is a really good number for people who want to save someone's life. So, mm-hmm. I think everyone can afford free when it comes to saving your son or daughter, niece or nephew, or even neighbor's life.
And no one can afford not to, Zach.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, Jackie. Like I said, I will be reaching out in the next, probably tomorrow. I am so excited to talk to you. Les, do you got anything going on this week? Usually I'm used to listening to you talk, but this became so much huge part of what we've just started to announce here on the pACT channel that, I mean, this just, the flow of this show was just chilling. I mean, I'm still sitting here with goosebumps, but I mean, it's such a great, but thank you for bringing her on.
You bet.
So, Les, you please tell me about how you can help people make some money.
What we're talking about is, in fact, Jackie saw this. She introduced me to a doctor yesterday, and anybody that wants to work with doctors, there's a new technology. In fact, how many of you have had a friend or a relative die of a heart attack and you had no concept that they were even sick? Well, that happens. In fact, 70% of the families find out when their relative dies. And when you go into your doctor, he can do one of two things. You can do a stress test or a blood test. Well, now there's a new technology that a camera that we've had in 180 hospitals for 15 years. And in 10 minutes under the tongue, the doctor can tell you if you have a risk of a heart attack in the next 6 years. And then we have a supplement to restore the circulation so that heart attack doesn't happen. And I'm looking for people that, first off, and this scan's only $300. So introduce me to your doctor. He can buy the camera, and he makes a lot of money in saving your life. But at the same time, I'm looking for medical device salespeople that know the doctors. I'm looking for influencers. And we're talking, with this camera and everything, we're talking 6 and 7 figures for influencers really in the medical or natural health field. And so I'd love to talk to anybody that has always wanted to work with doctors but didn't know how. This is the way to do it. And we can support them, and you'll make, like I said, 6 figures.
I appreciate it so very much, Les. As always, we will see you again in a month, and And I mean, bravo, my friend, bravo, bravo, bravo. What a great job, Jackie. I cannot thank you enough for coming and being open with your story and telling us more about what you guys are doing. And I cannot wait to talk to you more.
Thank you. Thank you, Les.
You bet.
So, all right. Hey, everyone, we will be back in just a minute. And all of you guys in Northern Colorado, guess what? There's some funky weather happening, okay? And with this funky weather, you might be needing somebody who can help you out to make sure that your home is safe. So stick with us, and Steve Solis is going to be joining me again. We haven't talked to Steve in a couple months, so now that the weather's here hurting our homes, Steve's the guy to talk to. So we will be right back. And as luck would have it, we've got that handsome man right here. Hey, Steve, how's it going, brother?
Hey, buddy. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine. And you know what, Les, if you don't mind, we're going to go ahead and bring you back on. We didn't get a lot of chance to talk to you. And you are also a member of 1BC, so you should know Mr. Steve. Do you guys know each other?
Well, I used to be. I'm not anymore.
Oh, you're not anymore? Okay, well, neither am I. But, you know, Steve is always a great guy to know. So
You bet.
yeah, Les is down in southern Colorado, down towards the southern end of Colorado. Steve, weather sucks here in northern Colorado, isn't it?
I guess it depends on your perspective,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you're probably liking it right now.
Well, let's say, in all honesty, I'm a homeowner too, and nobody likes to have to go through the damage and the process with the insurance company, and you know, it's quite a deal. Now, if we could prescribe to get a medium-sized storm, not necessarily a you know, a thing that's going to damage 100,000 houses, and we could keep the local good roofing companies busy, I think everybody would like that well enough. Problems that come along whenever you get a massive storm and these companies that come from out of state. But let me say something. I don't want to say too much about that because I really respect the fact that people have businesses. I don't care what state they're in, and if they have integrity and all of that, you know, our people go to their states whenever there's storms down their way. So, but I think the industry has had a black eye for a long time, and you know, companies like ours that make it a concerted effort to try to help with that image and bring it back up, because the people that do it well are real true professionals. These are people that are knowledgeable in the business. They're knowledgeable about products. That they have workers that are top notch, and so you can rely on these people. It's why I try to build relationships with insurance agents and management companies and realtors and things of that nature, so that people can know you, trust you, recommend you to potential customers. And really, just like always, most of the time people get several proposals, and that way they can make an informed decision. I often volunteer to people that uh, allow me to give you as much information as possible, because even if you don't choose us, you're going to choose somebody like us, and that protects the industry. What we're interested in is, sure, getting the work, but we also want to make sure that we are taking care of people appropriately as brothers in the same kind of business. I've been doing this straight since 1983, so over 40 years, but also, well, actually, beyond that, I started with my father in the late 60s, doing construction and roofing and all of that sort of thing. So let's say that it's a great industry. Billions of dollars in the country are spent from the insurance companies alone. And so that's why these entrepreneurial types try to come in and get in that flow of money that's going out there and to make their living. Well, they may more than make their living. Well, we're a small contractor, and so I know that I'm in the tail end of my career, but I hope to be able to help people through this very enormous task, dealing with the insurance company, dealing with their agent, dealing with the sales staff and the production staff, where it can really be a good, solid relationship between us and our customers. I've got customers that are insurance agents. I get invited to do estimates for their parents, which is a huge deal. That means they really do trust you when they're willing to do that. I've had recommendations from the building departments. The building department themselves cannot recommend anybody, but if a lot of times these inspectors, people will ask them, if you had your roof done, who would you choose? And they usually give them 2 or 3 names, and people that can be really relied on. So it's an incredible industry, and I've been fortunate to be a part of it for all this time. I personally have not been a regular on the roof installer for 30 years or so, but I've been a supervisor, manager, production manager, sales manager, all that stuff for a long time. Now all I do is sales. I don't want to oversee crews anymore. I did it for a long time. I'm really happy just being a salesman.
You keep talking about this whole retirement thing, tail end of your career. Look at this guy in early 40s and he's wanting to retire. I mean, come on.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, look at this.
So one of my friends had recommended me to a friend of his, and he was, he always teases me about my age because it surprises him. They said, "Now, yeah, you're 52, but you've been in roofing for 99 years." Well, I've been roofing, well, how long ago? It's 1967. But I am 70, and so I knew, and I was smart enough to get off the roof at a time before I started breaking bones and things of that nature. That's not good.
See, I just got fat enough to where nobody in their right mind would want me on their roof. So
I've got a great story for you about that situation. Because these ladders, they might be construction grade, but they still only go to about 250 pounds. So stay off the ladders.
Yeah, that sounds great. Steve, what are some of the things that people are going to be experiencing in these weather, with this weather like it is?
Well, the thing about, they're going to be pressed from every side. Take your time. Most of the time, hail damage is not enough to cause a leak. It could cause a leak around, let's say, skylights and chimneys and plumbing pipes and things of that nature. But it's usually in an area where it's breaking down the sealant, not necessarily the flashing itself or the skylight itself. Although I did get on a roof today where 2 skylights did get damaged, but they're double domes. The likelihood of moisture coming in is small. It could happen, but the worst that could occur is just to cover it with a tarp or plastic and fasten it down until the insurance company has their adjuster representative come out and look at it. There's going to be a lot of stuff on the fringe areas of the storms to see if they're actually damaged or not. That will be in discussion with these adjusters to see whether it can be done. So just beware, don't be in a hurry. Do your due diligence, check out the companies, check with the Secretary of State. How long has this particular individual or a group of individuals actually own that company here locally? I grew up in the Denver area. I've been part of certifications with every manufacturer. I've been on the education committee for the Colorado Roofing Association. And we just want people to see it as a profession and not everybody is just out to take your money. There are a lot of very good, true professionals in the state of Colorado, and just do some research. Your agent is a good start, but not necessarily a guarantee, because the person you meet at the door is not likely, just like me, is not the person actually doing the work anymore. Nobody ever asks, who these people are that work for us, and they are superior roofers. They're fantastic. They've been doing it a long, long time, and they're great. But nobody ever asks, so who are these people? They are concerned about their legality, their legal process, and all of that, and that's fair. But we want to make sure that they know that who we send out there would be the same people I would send to my mother's house. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but haven't you also spoken in front of people who legislate roofing? Haven't you been part of speaking about getting rules in place?
Well, I didn't speak directly to these folks, but the Colorado Roofing Association does. It's one of the purposes of the education committee, at least when I was part of it, is that we were looking to deal with how that should be handled with contractors, and how they should be legal and licensed and registered, and then it's really beyond that. Like I said, I have certifications from every manufacturer. Then I have third-party certifications through companies that's what they do. They come out and they ask you, do you really know about roofing? Do you know the products and all that sort of thing? So not directly, but indirectly, we dealt with that. And so the Colorado Roofing Association is a good organization to be a part of. It's not a guarantee. And by the way, concerning expertise, an average worker is an average worker, no matter what their vocation is. And so you're looking for people that can do it right, because as they say, the devil's in the details, to make sure that that work is done well. Ask the potential roofer about, what about oversight? Who is going to be watching these people? Who's going to double check to make sure that the work is correct and according to the code? Are you going to get a permit? Are you going to guarantee? What is your guarantee or warranty? And let's read it. And what does it mean? What does it say?
The other thing I've spoken to you about this before, because I ended up calling you out to my house once before, because there was a person who was a little shady to me. Steve, can they tell without getting on your roof the extent of the damage? Can you really tell from the ground?
Well, let me tell you, again, I've been doing this a long time, and most of the time I can't tell from the ground. Two houses I was on today had very dark shingles, and there is no way to see it, because what you're looking up at the roof, you're looking at it at an angle, and the marks that would be caused by even a good storm, large hail, boy, you just can't tell. So people have to get up on the roof and look at it 90 degrees to really see what's going on. It is, it's way different once you stand on top. I had a roof that was damaged up in Alt. When was that storm? About 6-7 years ago, something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they had hail that was bigger than baseball.
Yep.
And from the ground on a light colored shingle, I think it was like a light gray. I couldn't tell from the ground, but as soon as I got to the top of the ladder, I mean, I saw marks that were that big all over the roof. And so no, yeah, you don't necessarily see it at all. You've got to get up there and do that. And so what I do, like what I did today, is I took a visual and I got up on the roof and I took a bunch of pictures of the shingles, the flashings, the plumbing pipes, the flue pipe and the caps, all that sort of thing, so that we can send it to the insurance company. They can see, yes, you have damage. Let's send somebody out, because they're going to assess, windows, screens, siding, paint, all that stuff to see, what should be included in the estimate.
Les, have you ever had any problems with anything like this, and to where you've had to deal with roofers or?
Yes. 6 years ago or 5 years ago, we had our roof replaced. And it was interesting because it's just like he was talking, Steve, that we had different estimates, but there was a company that had been around for 20 years and they knew the insurance companies and they actually fought for us to get the covered, because when he inspected, he says, definitely it needs it. Their inspector came out, and so they took pictures and sent it into the insurance company and says, what about this? What about this? What about this? And so they got it through for it. So yes, you do need somebody that has a lot of experience and knows how to negotiate with the insurance companies.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, we had somebody who walked by the house and was seeing all this damage on top of our home. And I called Steve and I said, Steve, this is what this guy just told us. And Steve came out and he climbed up on our roof, which is no laughing matter. I mean, our roof is heavily peaked, and this home was built in 1907. Okay, it's no joke. It's
okay.
It's been around a day or two. But Steve gets up there and he said, "Look, you've got damage in this one spot." And Steve took the picture and he brought it down, and he said, "But it's nothing you need to worry about right now, And so that's just something that, instead of at that time my parents were, taking care of the house and everything was. I was not going to let my parents go and talk to somebody that, I
Right.
wanted to have somebody with integrity. And Steve, you mentioned integrity. One of the problems with the circus tent companies, you really got to watch out to make sure of their warranty, don't you? Or even calling people, can you give good estimates from, or not estimates, but referrals from other people with those companies?
Wow, it's a big subject there. Referrals generally come from the insurance agents themselves, for sure. Other customers that we've had over the years. Now, as you know, I'm fairly new to Northern Colorado. My father used to build houses up here when I was a kid. But then we were doing most of our work in the Denver metropolitan area for all those years. And I moved up here 9 years ago to be close to my then fiance, now wife, as you know. And so we rely a whole lot on that. In fact, I tell people, by the way, when I meet them, if we've never met before, I said, here's my intent. Here's how we operate. Here's our warranty. By the way, our warranty is 10 years, in-house warranty. That's our warranty, and it doesn't matter who lives there. Not, as far as I know, there is not one company in the state except for us that does it that way. They will give a warranty, some 2, some 3, some 5 years. I've even heard of one company giving a 10-year, but it's a manufacturer warranty that they will give you a labor warranty, but you have to pay for it. We don't charge anything extra for it because we're so confident in the work that we do that we don't believe we'll ever have to come back to do anything, because the work was done right and it's a long-term effect. So, but it is something you need to ask people, because the company I used to work for years ago, I was with them for 19 and a half years, was one of 3 companies in the state of Colorado that used to guarantee their work. Now, the difference between a guarantee and a standard warranty is it's limited warranty, they call it, is that a guarantee means ipso facto, no doubt about it, we're not going to have a problem, it'll pass inspection and all of that. Well, they got away from that because if you had a leak, and because everybody's had one at some time or another, and you had a very expensive painting on the wall, that's called consequential damage. If water comes in and destroys that thing, it's irreplaceable. So insurance companies made them change. So nobody guarantees, as far as I know, but they will put a limited warranty on it so that you know what the performance is. And there should be language to say, what does that mean? If it leaks, does that mean you guys have to come out and fix outside, or how about inside? What is the strength of your warranty? And so I think that's important before you sign a contract with anybody, to make sure that you know what are they actually covering, what are they actually doing to take care of it, what is the long-term effect, and then the products, what is their product knowledge? It's kind of tied in, because the manufacturer warranty is totally different than the labor. The manufacturers usually put some sort of year time frame on it. Used to be 20-year, then 30-year, then 40-year, and then 50-year. Now it's limited lifetime. Almost everything out there is limited lifetime. And that language says on their paperwork, this product will last 50 years or more under normal weather conditions. Now, I don't know what that is, but not around here.
That is not Colorado. Is what that is. We don't have normal weather conditions here in Colorado.
For sure. For sure.
So, Steve, let me ask you this. What are some of the tricks that salespeople, what are some of the tricks that people should really look out for?
I think the biggest thing you probably are aware of concerning the deductible. If you get damage to your car, the deductible for repairing, let's say, hail or a wreck, and the deductible is usually covered, but not in roofing. Roofing, by law, people have to pay their deductible. And one of the tricks about the people that go door to door or the out-of-staters is to tell people that they will forego the deductible. And by the way, that was one of the things that came up a number of years ago since I was on the committee, is that they changed the language in the state law to clarify that you cannot waive, you cannot deduct, you cannot adjust, you cannot do anything with
negotiate.
That. The homeowner has to pay that part. So make sure, even when you're getting your insurance or considering, a different insurance company, as to what that is, because sometimes people aren't prepared to give $1,000 out of their pocket, which is typical deductible today, and then they pay their portion, which could be $10,000, could be $15,000 or more. So it is important for you to know this upfront. So one of the things is many insurance companies, and as I understand, all insurance companies are going to be doing it based upon a percentage. So percentage of what the cost is, and if you're at, let's say, 40%, you could be $4,000 out of pocket plus your deductible if it's what they call an actual cash value type policy versus a replacement cost value. So all those questions have to be answered. And so these roofers, they take advantage of customers because people move, they say on an average every 7 to 9 years. And then you get a new crop of young people that have or have never owned a house, and they're being confronted by these people that are going to take advantage of because they've never gone through the process of dealing with the insurance. So ask that question. Do you guys, are you professionals in dealing with the insurance company and help us through this process? Because it is an enormous process.
That's why is it that you can get away with, why do they make you pay the deductible? What's the reasoning for that?
Part of the idea is, and it's better to have an insurance agent explain that a little bit better, but basically it's your portion of the cost in order to help pay for that. So say, for instance, we get a lot of houses that are damaged here, but all in all, insurance is spread across the board. So in other words, without insurance, how many people are going to be forking over $15,000 every time this happens, especially in Colorado in our Front Range area? You just couldn't afford to do that all the time. So the insurance programs basically help spread the costs, usually in your own zip code, so that people can actually afford to have their roof replaced. For us, we had our roof done here 3 and 4 years ago, I think it was, when we had storms through here. Can you imagine if we would have had to pay $15,000 2 years in a row? See, it doesn't, there's a good reason for insurance, and we complain about the cost, but part of it is because they are trying to spread the costs out so that we can make it affordable. And insurance rates in Colorado are fairly high because of our extreme conditions.
Mm-hmm.
There are several places in the country that are almost exactly like us. Dallas, Fort Worth, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Denver, Front Range, are really the top 3. But there's a few other areas, Oklahoma, like that have some pretty severe areas, and they are susceptible because of the extreme weather. So can you imagine having to fork out? We've had people I remember in Arvada years ago that had their roof done 3 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah. So, we don't like it, but it's a necessary evil, unfortunately. If we all had a bunch of money to spend, what difference would it make, right? But that's not the way it is. You got to spread the cost. That's how the purpose works. And it's difficult to tell, exactly, we don't dictate to the insurance company what they do. They tell us what they're going to do. So, but before you sign the dotted line with an insurance company, you need to make sure how they operate, what their costs. Talk to other people. I know a friend of mine, he changes insurance companies every year because he wants to spend the least amount of money. The problem is that he had an actual cash value. So actual cash value basically means you're only going to get half the money. So.
Yeah. So when you guys got your roof done, did you vet the salesperson really well?
Yeah, he was under terrific scrutiny then and now, buddy.
Yeah. I'll bet you that your wife put him through the ringer.
Yes, she definitely did. Yes. I told her all this stuff here, and she starts asking me these questions.
Yeah. Jeez. That would be a very interesting conversation, I think. So,
well, it's funny. Years ago, 2 of my sons, my middle son and my youngest, all of them actually, the 3 of them, about 14 years old, I took them up onto roofs and I showed them what to do, and they worked with me for a day. And at the end of the day, I said, "Hey, what do you think?" And none of them liked it, of course. And I said, "Well, here's the deal. This is what I know. I can do other things, but this is what I know, and this is my passion. And so if I'm going to teach you anything, it's to learn how to do this and do it well, or you can get educated some other way, technical school or college or whatever. It's either that or roofing. So you tell me what you want to do." Well, none of them took up roofing, which was probably a smart thing to do. So
Yeah. So
yes, but they went with me on sales, because if you're trying to pitch to somebody about who you are and what you do, and you're talking in front of your children, they know whether you're, telling people straight or not. So it helped keep my feet to the fire.
yeah,
But people ask some great questions, and we want them to, just like I said, due diligence. Give a call to the building department, talk to your agent, talk to other homeowners. And, generally what I do is I have a list of like 30 people on a piece of paper to give to these folks. And you can call any of my customers and ask them any question you want about how we operate. Was it a good experience? How was the communication? All that sort of thing.
yeah. Well, I know that I know that you are a huge part of what we do at Community Pay It Forward. So, but you're not a man of just a single talent. You've
No.
as the video showed right before you came on, you've got a wonderful career. It's no longer just a hobby. It's a career of balloon art.
Yeah.
And
How
how
long did it take you to learn that?
Well, that's kind of a difficult question. I had met a lady at the Garden and Home Show in Denver probably 25 years ago, and she had been twisting balloons like 20 years already. Although she was my age, but 20 years ago I was 50. So I was so intrigued with what she was doing. I have an art and craft background, and so I stood there and watched her for a long time, and I said, "I'd really like to learn how to do that." And she says, "Well, I give lessons, but it's usually got to be in groups of 15 or 20. And where was I going to find that many people, right? So the church that I go to was going to send an adult group to Uruguay. It was the second time they were going to send an adult group to a mission field so that we could help the missionaries out. They don't have time for, the physical labor things. They can't take time to paint a room or fix the door or repair the window or whatever it is. And many times they didn't even have the expertise. But we got people in the church that do. So why don't we send these people, and they'll take care of the deals. And of course, mine was roofing. The first group went to New Mexico to the reservation, and we did a roof out there, and we did it in one day. And then the next group was to go to Uruguay, and that was quite a feat. This is not a domestic situation at all, and so passports and preparation and planning and all that. But we were going to do the roof on one church and paint another one, and then we were going to deal with their children in the churches in the evening. A lot of singing and games and lessons and stuff like that. So they wanted somebody to go along that could do origami and the balloon animals. And I said, "Hey, well, I got a friend. She'll teach us. Hopefully they'll take advantage of the lessons and costs. But they didn't want to take the time or pay the money." So I called her up, and we became friends. And I'd stay in touch. I'd see her once or twice a year at these home shows. And so I called her up and I said, "Hey, here's my dilemma. We're going to be doing this trip, and they need somebody to do balloons." There's a girl that's in the high school that just started, and she wasn't very good. She only knew how to do two things: And I told him, I'm not going all the way to Uruguay, only knowing 2 things. You're silly. And she sent me down to pick up a book and a video, a bag of balloons, and a pump, and just start practicing. In 2 weeks, I learned to do 17 characters.
Wow.
So,
You're good.
in all fairness to that statement, if I can show you, this is a unicorn. And see this body, that's the head. The body is the same as a horse,
okay.
cat, a
The
dog,
base. Okay.
a zebra. It's all the same. So you just change a few of the frilly things on here, and now all of a sudden you got a unicorn. Oop, let me get this going the right way. See there, you got a unicorn.
Uh-huh.
And so it's so wide open. Anyway, I studied and practiced. I fell in love with it. But for 10 years, I was very basic because the people I was working for wanted you to do the simplest of stuff to get to more kids in theory. But most of the time it was taking 2 to 3 minutes anyway. So I learned to develop a greater skill, just like that one, and to people to see, something better because they're willing to pay for it. So I changed real fast from very basic to more sophisticated. People pay for it. It doesn't take that much longer. So I get on YouTube virtually every day. I study and practice. I've been in roofing over 40 years. I don't study that at all. But for the balloons, I study and practice 1 to 3 hours every day because I want my stuff to be top notch.
Wow.
And I have a ton of fun. I've been dealing with children's groups, and it's not the children; it's usually the parents that are challenging.
Right, right.
I have a ton of fun with that, and I know how to handle those situations, and we try to make everybody happy as much as possible. I hate cutting off the line, but unfortunately, I'm required to quit on time, and so some people don't get their balloon. I've actually had people, when I worked the restaurants, follow me all the way out to my car as I'm leaving because they didn't get their balloon, but so I have a ton of fun with it. I'm learning and understanding what a balloon can't do, and just have a ton of fun and make a few dollars. 4 years ago, 1/4 of my income for the year was doing balloons part-time.
Wow.
Let's
So do
see.
you charge by the hour or per balloon?
Say again?
Do you charge by the hour or per balloon?
Usually by the hour if I'm doing events. I've done Google, Comcast, Hewlett Packard, Elks Club, Moose Lodge. I've done several things with Zach, and so that's mostly per hour. But if I'm in the restaurant, I do ask, because the restaurant doesn't pay us to be there. I've done Golden Corral for many years, IHOP and all that, and they'll ask me how much, and I usually charge on a per balloon basis in that sense. So it all depends on where I'm at. But if I do events, I'm usually paid per hour.
And a balloon takes how long
to make one?
Yeah.
That what I just showed you is probably 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you charge for that?
That one, well, based on each one, it'll be I asked for $4 or $5 for one of those. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you market yourself, or do you have somebody else that markets you?
Well, I work for 5 different companies, and a couple of them are very popular here in northern Colorado, and giving kudos to those people. They trust me and they know my work, and they're willing to pay for it, and I appreciate that. I do a lot of stuff on my own. My company name, as you probably see it there at the bottom, is Mountain Lion Entertainment. My father was referred to as Mountain Lion when he was a younger man, and it was in reference to honor him, because when I was a salesperson at another roofing company, we were subcontractors, and I had to have a name. So Mountain Lion Roofing LLC, and then I became an employee. But I still owned the name. So when I started twisting balloons, I needed to have be registered as a subcontractor for these other companies. So
Okay.
I do a number of companies that are in Northern Colorado that are event type companies. They're not necessarily just entertainment per se. I'm even going to hopefully be working with, there's a circus group up in Fort Collins. And through one of those companies, I've twisted balloons for them. So the exposure is wonderful. I love meeting people. I love making people smile and laugh. And there's interactive ones, like swords, and I make a bow and arrow that will shoot with accuracy.
Yep.
So,
Wow.
So
Yeah.
giant. He makes these giant hats, and he'll put actual lights inside of the eyeballs. It'll be like a Broncos hat,
Wow.
and it'll have lights inside the eyeballs, so the kids can take and shake their head, and the little lights flash in the eyes, and it
Yep.
is so cool.
Yeah.
So what do you charge for that hat? $10, $15?
Well, 10 at least.
Yeah.
It takes 8 minutes, 7 balloons, and 2 LED lights, and it is fantastic. I was where was I at? I can't remember. And some lady saw it, and she said, it was at the Golden Corral. That's right. And she didn't want anybody else to get that thing. And so she said, I'll give you $25 for that thing. Well, what was I going to say, right?
Really?
And so $25 was great. And so I was at the Garden and Home Show, not this last February, but a year ago. And I was walking through the place because there were several insurance agents who are my best connections were there. And there was a few that I knew. And I was coming over there to give them this hat, this unicorn hat. And some guy was walking behind me. He did not know I had the label of the company I work for on my shirt, but it didn't say it on the back. And he says, hey, where'd you get that? And I said, I made it. He said, you made this? And then I turned around and he saw the label and he said, oh, you're for the roofing company. And I said, yeah, I've been coming here since the mid-90s. And he said, well, I'd like to have one of those. And I said, well, you're going to have this one here. How much is it going to set me back? He says. And I said, well, this lady gave me $25 for it. And he said, I'll beat that. And so I've expected 30, but then he gave me 2 20s, and he was happy with it. I was happy with it. So $40 for about 8 minutes of time.
Yeah. I
Good
know,
ROI.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, it's not just kids. I've done the birthday party for the 50 and over crowd. I've gone to senior centers. That's a little tougher gig, but tougher than people think, because they're not so sure they want to have a balloon. Are you kidding me? That's for kids. Until they see what I can do, and then they kind of fall into it.
Yeah.
I always have to bring it up. We've also been to adult entertainment establishments where adult sodas float freely.
Adult theme.
And yep, and the dunce hats come out, and those are great. So
Yeah.
yeah. And Steve is also a huge part of the Cub Club. So if you're working a birthday party, if you got a birthday party coming up, and you want to make it extra special, if you call him and let him know that you're coming through Community Pay It Forward, a portion of whatever he charges you to be there can go to the cause that you wish to support.
Hey,
So,
Sure.
come here.
Okay.
I want to show you my partner here.
Hey, hi, how you doing? I haven't seen you since the
She
wedding.
has,
So.
and she knows Zach, and she has been coming with me probably about 9 months now.
Mhm.
And she assists me in that I twist the greater part of the balloons, but she goes up the line and talks to the kids and straightens out the parents, and so that we can, she asks the children what do they want and what color do they want. So when they come up to me, we can be more efficient and get through it. So we have a ton of fun, and it's wonderful for us to be together, to be able to do and share this thing have fun together. Because all of these years I was going on my own, which I was still having fun, but it was separate from her because her job dictated having to be, give more attention to it and all of that. So her job has changed a little bit, allowed her to be able to be with me. And she's a budding balloon artist, so she knows how to do 2 things.
I can do a snake or a basketball.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Now that you say that, 3 things I can do.
It's a very simple model of a snake.
Yes.
Here.
And
Yeah.
very
Well, we all need our beautiful assistants. So, and
Yeah.
it's great to see you again. So, Steve, how did people get a hold of you for either Mountain Lion Entertainment or to get some roof work done after all this hellacious storm that we're going to be supposedly
Well,
getting?
you put at the bottom of the screen there a moment ago. That's my phone number is probably the easiest way to do it. People can email me, and just like the verbiage is down there, except you put it all together, lowercase, Mountain Lion Entertainment, the number 1 at gmail.com. But if they've called or text that number, and that number is good for both roofing and for balloons. And by the way, I'm connected to a number of people that are face painters and magicians, things of that nature. I don't do that stuff. It'll take me the rest of my life to master this thing here, and that's okay. I don't want to be forced into it, and I've got some people that just their passion is doing,
Sure.
the face painting and the magician thing.
Yeah.
I'm probably never going to do that, but I have some great friends, and I invite them along whenever we need a face painter or something of that nature. So
It's always stay in your lane. Stay
in your lane. Yeah, dude.
do what you do and let others do what they do. So
Yeah.
it's always the best way to do it. So Steve, I wanted to I called you this morning because I thought with all the weather that we're supposed to be having, that this would be a great time to have you back on and let people know that Steve is either roofing or balloons. If you hire the man, he's going to donate to a cause of your choice, to a mission of your choice. So he's a great partner, as is Les. If you do business with Les, he's going to donate to you. Just let him know, you know what, community pay it forward. I'm working with them. Who can we support? So gentlemen, thank you both very much. Les, thanks for the extra hour. I would say that overtime's coming, but time and a half of nothing is so. But I want to thank you guys both very much. Please contact me if you guys need anything. So
sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
See you later.
Later.
Thank you both. Hey everybody, this was from get-go. This was such a important show. To Teen Suicide Prevention Society.com. Please go and check that out. Make sure that you understand it's free to get their book, to get their pamphlet, How to Talk to Someone. It says teens, but the truth is we're all humans, okay? So you can use these suggestions for anybody. There is no good way to say goodbye when suicide is involved. So please make sure that you reach out. Contact Steve, Mountain Lion Entertainment, 970-646-8108, 970-646-8108. And of course, 7waystoprofit.com, 7waystoprofit.com. That's how you get a hold of my co-host, Les Simpson. And I want to thank him very much because you know what? This show was awesome because of him this month. My heart's still racing from that conversation that we had. Yeah, I want to make a very, very special again. Lost another dear friend, Stan. You will be missed. You will be missed greatly. You took in a 21-year-old snot-nosed kid and taught him how to be a 51-year-old snot-nosed kid. Thank you so much. And then I'm probably going to get smacked for this one. I also want to say happy birthday to my wife tomorrow. That's right.
I don't have birthdays anymore.
Oh, yes, you do, baby. And it's tomorrow. So happy birthday to my wife tomorrow. We want to thank you guys so very much. You can always, always, always get a hold of me by using my For My Card, which is right there, formycard.net, or go to communitypayitforward.us. It's all the time that we have for today. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here. And just please remember, no one needs to go it alone. When we all come together, please make sure that you're taking care of each other, and because no one needs to go it alone.